All right, we are in our final week and week 4 of our Great Expectations series. And I love what God is doing and how God is speaking to us as a church because he wants us to walk in great expectations. We love this verse here in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20 and 21. This is our theme verse that we've been talking about. Now, to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. So how do we walk with the faith with great expectations? Well, we learned in week 1, we walk in a faith that amazes, like the centurion who had a servant who was sick. And the centurion says, I believe in your authority, Jesus. And I'm not even a Jew, I'm a Gentile, but I believe in your authority. And so I believe that you can just say the word and my servant will be healed. And that amazed Jesus, that the centurion would have that much faith in the authority of Jesus, but he also approached it with humility. Hey, you know, Jesus, I don't deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word. And so we're going to be a church that walks with a faith that amazes God. We're going to be a church that walks and says, God, we believe. You say it, we believe it. You say it, we believe it. But we're going to walk in humility as not deserving of anything. Another way we can have great expectations is that we have a faith that surprises. Like the woman who was bleeding for 12 years. And this woman just reached out in faith, just touched the outer clothes of Jesus. And even surprised Jesus as he turned around and he was like, who touched me? I felt power come from me. Who touched me? And so this woman did not let anyone stand in the way. She pushed people out of the way. She was aggressive. And then she also announced her faith because Jesus said, who touched me? And so this woman finally stood up and said, you know, Jesus, it was I. And so Jesus said, you're healed. And so as we walk in this journey of great expectations, we want to be a church that surprises God with our faith. In other words, we want to be a church that is, we do not let anyone stand in the way. No enemy is going to stand in the way to what we've believed that God is telling us. Because church, God has already been speaking to us about this future property. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, what does that do with me and my life? You know, you could have areas in your life that, just like this woman, that's just bleeding, that's hemorrhaging. And so how can you stop that? You know, maybe it's a marriage, maybe it's finances, maybe it's other relationships, maybe it's your kids you're trying to raise. Whatever that looks like, what can we do to have a faith that amazes God and surprises God? Well, we can look at those stories of the centurion and the woman who is bleeding. Last week, we talked about a faith that delivers. I love the story about 4 men who brought the paralyzed man to Jesus. You know what they did is they confirmed the need. There was a need there. And then they contributed to the solution. They all worked together. It's kind of like what we're doing as a church. We're all contributing, working together for this. And what is the need? There are thousands of people all around us. Within a 10-mile radius, there are thousands of people who don't know Jesus. There are people who can walk here that don't know Jesus. That is a problem. That is a need. And we're going to contribute together. And we're going to put a church right in the heart of this city and right next to one of the world's most amazing sports destinations, Lake Point Sports, as it continues to grow and they build the bridge to the North Campus. And as God does amazing things and brings people around the world to our back door. So we're going to be that church that contributes to the solution. And then just like the men, they cut through the resistance. There was a resistance to get that paralyzed man to Jesus. It was people, okay? There were people in the way. It's like, okay, that's not going to stop us. Then they climbed to the roof, and it's like, okay, there's a roof here. That's not going to stop us. And we're going to go right through the roof. We're going to pull that up. And so we're going to cut through any kind of resistance that may come our way. Why? Because God has called us to do this. We're going to collectively help this need that we have in our community. And so our faith is lifeless and paralyzing without action. Our faith is lifeless and paralyzing without action. You can believe in something, but if we don't put feet to that belief, then it's paralyzed, just like that man. And so you have to do something about it. So church, Lake Point Church, we are doing something about it with God's strength and God's help. And so today on this final message, and you're going to find out, I'm so excited about today's message. I'm so excited about the message that God has given to me because it's been sitting in my heart for several weeks. In fact, this is a message that I wanted to preach first, but God's like, nope, wait till the final message. And so I've been waiting, anticipating what God's going to do. And so today's message is entitled, A Faith That Fights. A faith that fights. Not only does something, but does something in a way that tackles the enemy and gets rid of the enemy. You know, as we lead this up, we've got the story of Moses now, who took the children of Israel, the nation of Israel, out of Egypt by God's power, led them across the Red Sea on dry land, and then they spent some time in the wilderness because of disobedience, and then Joshua led them across the Jordan River into the promised land, and then they settled among different areas in the land, in the promised land, the same land that, remember in our Abraham series, that Abraham walked and God showed him the land. It's the same land. And so as they settled into that area, they were realizing that the neighbors around them, the other nations around them, were starting to come in and take over their crops and take their crops and all of their supplies and even some of their livestock, almost to the point to where the nation of Israel, they were hiding in the mountains and in caves away from the enemy, as the enemy was coming in to their land. And so they cried out to God for help. God, help us. Help us. And so what God does, he sends a messenger. He sends a messenger to a man named Gideon. Now, Gideon was just an average guy. He was an average guy like you and me. And so this Gideon character, he was a farmer. And so he was out in a wine press in this room, in this structure where they squish out the grapes and the wine runs and they collect that. He was hiding in there threshing wheat. And so if you ever threshed wheat before, you probably haven't. I did some YouTube video looking of threshing wheat. It's pretty amazing. There are videos you can watch in India and other countries where they take the wheat and they spread it out and they just whip that and crush it and they separate the grain from the stalk. And then they take it and they kind of throw it up a little bit because along with the wheat, there is also what is called chaff. And so that's just a little thin layer of skin. So they throw it up because the wind takes that chaff and separates it, the good, the bad from the good. And so, but Gideon was not in the open. He was hiding from who? From the other nations who were coming in. And so that's where we find Gideon, just an average guy hiding from the enemy, and he's a farmer, and he's threshing wheat. And so that's where we find this passage in Judges chapter 6, verse 12 through 16. It says this, when the angel of the Lord, so there's our messenger, when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Okay, I remember he's just a farmer. So the angel's calling him a warrior. I mean, he's probably thinking, okay, you got the wrong guy. It's cool to see an angel, but you got the wrong guy. Pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian, the Midianites, one of the neighboring nations. Verse 14, the Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and save Israel out of the Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? Pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied, but how can I save Israel? My clan, my people group is the weakest in Manasseh, in that area, and I am the least in my family. I'm the weakest in my family. I'm not that much. I don't own that much. I'm not a strong man. I'm the weakest. I'm the least in my family. The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. So let's pause and just apply some of these things that we find in the story. Number one, the first thing I want to point out is that Gideon was least likely to lead an army of fighters. He was just a farmer, but God saw something different. Y'all, that is huge. And I want you to keep that. God saw something different because he called him a mighty warrior. Lake Point Church we're one of the youngest, if not the youngest church in Bartow County. We started 5 years ago. And so with that, we are the least likely church to purchase 20 acres and eventually build something. There are other churches who've been around longer and who have more established churches. We are the least likely. We are the sort of the weakest in our clan, just like Gideon said. You know, I am the least in my family. We are the youngest, or if not one of the youngest, churches in Bartow County. We are the least likely. But God sees something different, just like Gideon. He sees something different in us. Now, understand this, church. This is not Frank Bennett, the pastor of Lake Point Church, talking. We have God-spoken truths, and God has confirmed these things about that we need to go to this particular property, and we need to eventually build. That's God's timing. We have no idea what God's timing is. But we do know this. We've got to be faithful, and we have to be obedient as a church. But isn't it good to know that God sees something different in Lake Point Church? God believes in our mission, in our vision. You know, you may feel like, let's bring it home to you. You may feel like the least likely to move beyond some areas in your life that are causing fear. Just like the neighboring nations around Israel, they were coming in and invading their property and causing fear among the people. Maybe there's things in your life where the enemy is coming into your mind and your heart and causing fear. Maybe fear in the areas of maybe parenting or managing a budget or balancing work and home. And there's enemy coming in and he's disrupting things. He's disrupting things that you know could be better. And so you walk in fear and confusion and frustration, just like the nation of Israel was. But God believes in you, and God believes that you